Well, welcome back to At the Round Table with Memley. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. In studio, my co-host, Dr. Bradley. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. It's nice to be here. It's better to be seen than viewed.
Absolutely. And, Dr. Bradley, we have to, because the app was not working earlier, so we didn't hear our hearty good morning. So we're going to have to get back on the plane and head back down to Indiana and give another good morning to Brother Bridgeforth.
Well, yeah, I got the text. He said, "Are you brothers alive?" I said, "Man, this is not Memorex."
Right. The app was down for a few minutes, but we're back on. He is excited, a faithful listener. And like I told Brother Bridgeforth, give us a call. Let us know what's happening down in Indiana there. So,
Yeah, it'll be nice to talk to the brother.
Absolutely. So 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685 is the number here at the station here. He said, Brother Fisher, good morning, sir. He said, we gave you a hearty shout out in our 7 o'clock hour as we normally do, but we know the app was down, so we want to make it up to you. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable. Caller, you there?
Hello.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
You're on the phone with somebody else. Karen. Hi.
Good morning, Pastor Karen. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
Good morning, Dr. Bradley. Good morning,
Good morning,
Larry.
Pastor. How are you? Good to hear you.
I'm good. So as you know, I'm listening to you guys.
And we appreciate it.
And funny enough, it was about 10 minutes to 7, and I started getting myself ready, and then 7 on the nose. I looked at Bruce, and I was like, what? They're not on?
Well, we got quite a few of those texts, so we appreciate that we're missed. My wife doesn't even know I leave the house, and yet folks are...
And he's like, Karen, I'm fixing it. The app was, I was like, oh, okay. Don't play. But, so, just a couple of thoughts. One of the first things I did this morning, just kind of going through my news feed, and I've shared this before, that even though we're in Massachusetts, I think it's incumbent upon us, it's important that we support, whether financially or otherwise, other races in other key states.
Yes.
Right.
And so, like this morning, I made a donation to Val Deming's race, to, against what's his name? I can't think of his name right now.
No, is she's running for Senate? Or is she running for? I know she's a state rep. I mean, a rep, U.S. rep down there, but she's running for.
I think she's running for the Senate.
Senate. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. So that's one. Two. Pastor Hobbs touched on something which literally makes my blood boil, and that is just the way the quote-unquote evangelical Christian world has essentially sold their soul and been co-opted by this whole thing. And if you can remember back when Mitt Romney, do you remember when Mitt Romney was running for president?
Yes.
They turned on him because he's a Mormon, and that's quote-unquote a cult. So fast forward to now, how in the world do they look themselves in the face, in the mirror, having made that decision, and are now supporting wholeheartedly, both feet in, Donald Trump?
Well, it's about power, Pastor Karen.
Right. I think it's about power. I think it's also about fear that this white supremacist structure may finally come down, and or at least be dented significantly. And I think that they're fearful of that. They've got a lot to lose, and so by any means necessary, I think is what's their playbook right now. So if we have to make a deal with the devil, who lives down in Mar-a-Lago and has orange hair, we're willing to do that because the end justifies the mean. That's what I believe about them.
And so to your point, as you say, I've been mobilizing folks, because I tell folks we have to take this show on the road. This is not about Massachusetts politics, whatever. I think we can survive that. What we can't survive is states like Georgia right, where it's clear it is to disenfranchise a segment in the population of people, particularly black and brown people, from their rights to vote. In other states as well, even in Michigan and Pennsylvania, other places, we have to be willing to, like you said, you did this morning, put our money where our mouth is. And this weekend, if you're looking at the history of the fights for people like Dr. King and John Lewis and others who who fought for this country, and we're just sitting back taking it on the chin, and we see it in real time, and the thing is, Pastor, they're not trying to hide it any longer.
Oh no, there's no need to, because they've got a critical mass of the percentage of the country that's cheering them on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's no need to hide it
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
And I agree with you about Massachusetts. I think Massachusetts is relatively safe for the time being,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think we should sleep on Massachusetts
No,
either.
no, we shouldn't.
Two things shocked me. One, I was in Dedham, not too far from my house, at the Legacy Mall. I was stopped at a light. This was during the election. I was stopped at a light, and I was just kind of thinking to myself, probably daydreaming, but I was disturbed by this, like, what sounded like a cheering crowd, and I turned around and I looked right on the corner of
I
the mall.
saw them.
Which was
Yes,
you saw them, right? Trump supporters.
yes, yeah, all on Route 1. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a little close to home for me.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
My daughter works with autistic children, and she goes into the home and does whatever. Works out a treatment plan with them. She came home a couple of weeks ago and told me that a family in a town that will remain nameless has like a 6x6 Trump 2024 flag in their living room.
Wow. Wow.
Well, it's definitely here.
They've
So-
replaced the welcome mat with that.
Exactly.
So, when you talk about mobilization and putting our money where our mouth is, I think we have to be
Yeah.
organized. I don't think we can wait for
No.
somebody else to do it for us.
No.
And the clip that you played a little bit ago of
We're gonna play it again. Yeah. Which one? There was two. The World War II veteran Maceo Snipes and
the second one.
Okay, where they're trying to shut down. Well, they've shut down
Right.
polling
Randolph
places.
County.
Yes.
Randolph County.
Right. I sincerely hope that we have enough of the fight of our ancestors in us to walk to the polls if we have to.
Well, this is where I said.
Walk, bicycle, carpool,
But-
Uber,
Right.
do what you need.
But here's the thing, Pastor Ken. This is why I said about putting our money where our mouth is, right? Is that we need to go down there now and get these folks registered. And the 2 weeks, and actually the month leading up to the election, is particularly if they shut it down to just that week, whatever that time frame is, we need to be sitting down in Randolph County with vans waiting to get our folks to the polls
Absolutely.
if they have to, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Showing that we're not sitting by, right? If they don't have transportation, we'll provide it for them.
Right.
Well,
And churches need to go old school.
yes.
Do the same
There you
thing.
go.
Souls to the polls.
Yeah.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. But I wanted to comment on the evangelical Christians because and I'm as a
Can
man
you
who
speak a little bit louder, Dr.
okay
Bradley?
I'm coming closer to the mic. That was really me being away from the mic because I'm really frustrated with this and I'm hoping that someone can help me. In my mind, this approach of this embracing of Donald Trump and his ideology is inconsistent with Christ as a Christian.
On every level.
I never, going through Scripture, I can't locate a spot where Christ alienated the poor. I can't come up with any kind of verse of in Scripture where Christ turned his back on the downtrodden. I can't come up with a situation where Christ just said to the poor, "I'm better than you," or "You less than human." So I don't understand how their politics can be so incongruent to their faith, and they live with it. I just don't get it. And so as a Christian man, it frustrates me when I'm dealing with evangelicals who support this guy and that ideology. I'm just saying,
Well, it's the same thing. It's the Pastor Karen's, what they did to Romney, but go back even further with John F. Kennedy because he was Catholic,
yeah.
right? Because he was Catholic. Now you have a man who violates everything if they're
Right.
honest with themselves. The multiple marriages, children. I mean, it's just his language on the bus. about describing what he could do to women.
Or his assault of women.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I have a wife, 4 daughters,
Right.
a host of nieces, and 5 sisters.
Right.
And you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna support someone who outly assault? No, I
Right.
can't.
Right.
I can't do it.
Right.
But people, that's just locker room talk. I have been in many locker rooms.
Right.
I never heard that. You know what I mean?
This is the talk they want
You
to
know
hear.
what, Dr. Bradley? Just one quick question, comment. That's what's so disturbing about this.
Yes.
Because it defies logic.
Right.
Yes.
It's now mob mentality.
Right.
Yes.
So we might think, well, we can combat this with the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is irrelevant. It's about winning.
Yes, it is. It is.
So I feel like we have to not abandon that, but we can't keep thinking, well, you know what? If we just keep hitting him with the truth, no. That's not
Exactly.
going to work.
Well,
It's not about the truth.
And that
It's
goes
about
to
winning.
the point, Pastor Karen, with Joe Manchin and Sinema, right? The senators who think, oh, well, no, this partisan. Let's live in the real world. These folks had control of the Senate, like Mitch McConnell, and President Obama was in there, and he had 11 months left in his presidency. Wanted to put Merrick Garland. Oh no, we can't do that. But yet Trump a month before, so they've shown who they are. So this isn't about that somehow that the Republicans, if they get back in power, will do the same thing that they're going to do. They already have done it.
Yes. Yes.
And they're just waiting to get back into power
They have done it boldly.
to continue it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't even cold in her grave
No.
Yep.
before they had that other, what's her name? I can't think of her
Amy
name. but anyway.
Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And it rushed her through. So this isn't about right and wrong.
So, I'm sorry. There's Dr. Bradley and Larry. I don't know if you've heard this term, but I saw an interview that Roland Martin did with some Proud Boy person, and he referred to himself as a cultural Christian.
Well, no, I
No, I
And that
haven't
was
heard
the
of
first
that
time I had
term.
heard that.
I never
so
heard
I
of
kind
that
of
term.
sat up. I was like, a cultural Christian.
right. The two go
So-
together, huh?
So, Roland is hilarious sometimes. His mouth can get him in trouble. But he asked him, he said, what the H is a cultural Christian? He said, I'm asking you, do you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, period? Right? And the guy couldn't answer it. What he described was growing up in a Southern Confederate kind of throwback environment where church was obligatory, but it didn't necessarily mean anything.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
just
That's
wanted
what we
to share
do.
that.
Well,
But
well,
I agree. We need to mobilize now,
yes. Well,
not depend on the truth to be the answer
right.
to this.
Well,
because
Pastor
they're
Karen,
not
we're going to
just
need
the
your
truth.
help, right? Well, I've been talking to some folks. I've talked to some folks and some younger folks in sororities and stuff, and we're trying to set up a Zoom call where we can get folks galvanized because we don't have time to waste. We can't wait till a month before the election, 2 months. We're actually running behind already.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Oh,
that.
we absolutely are.
So we've got to make sure we have an infrastructure in place to build up all that they're trying to tear down. If it means us getting folks registered, as Megan said, if we have to be in that town at our own expense for a week or whatever, and there are these businesses and stuff that should be helping support financially to get these vehicles, whatever we need to do to get these souls to the polls, we should be making it happen and selling. We're not standing by watching them destroy
voting.
our voting.
Yep.
So, Larry, I hope my sorority is at the table there. Please let me know
I will.
if we're not. Okay.
All right, we're gonna get.
right.
I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks for listening.
Right.
All right. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Yes, People's Academy troublemaking team, Michael Thomas.
Good morning.
Never a
Mike.
troublemaker. The
Good
agitator.
trouble. Necessary.
That agitator is
Listen.
important.
I was doing some laundry last night, and you can't get anything done without the agitator work.
That's right. The agitator got to be working. Other than that, it's just water.
What I wanted to say is that we have to try to realize and remember there's a lot more of Caucasian people that are Donald Trump basically is their reflection in the mirror. And they've been endowment for a long time, but with the election twice of Barack Obama, it just brought them back to the surface. But we have to remember they were always there. But they just needed that picker-upper, someone to rip the scab off.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is their man.
Right.
Like I said to Dan Walker, Donald Trump is the new face of white supremacy and the new Hitler.
Right. Well, you
And it's
see,
real.
one of the Oath Keepers, he said that this was their new civil war, right? That this was going to be fought like a civil war. Well, we all know how the Civil War turned out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking to have statues erected of them because they hope they win this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going down without a fight. I'm not sitting by idly
Mm-hmm.
because it wouldn't even be worth living in this country under those conditions.
Well, see, the thing is, Larry.
You see, and this is the other reason why I push and try to open eyes for black and brown people. Black virus, joblessness, murder, and incarceration. We need to focus. Those are our number one issues. Every other issue would pop up for every other group, every other cause. But our number one cause is our number one problems are those things: a lack of good paying jobs, a lack of jobs.
Right. T. Michael, did you
The
hear?
incarceration and the violence.
Did you hear the segment we played? It's about 3 minutes on Maceo
Snipes.
Maceo Snipes and his trying to vote.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna play that again for folks that didn't listen in the 7 o'clock hour. But this is what I'm talking about. If we understand our history, and the only thing that's stopping us from voting is a ride, like Pastor Karen said, if you have to walk, you walk.
Uber,
Right.
Lyft.
Right.
But-
But I mean,
yeah.
a lot of folks walking across that Edmund Pettus Bridge,
Exactly.
right? And they would be just to try to vote, just to get the right to vote, the rights that we fought for, and we're so easily just allowing these legislators, with a stroke of a pen, to take it away from us. No, no.
Part of our problem is that we are not appreciative of the people before us who sacrificed through horrible, horrible situations to make it much or easier or make it available for us, even to simply walk to the train station without some person jumping you because of the color of your skin. You know what I'm saying? We went through that in the 80s,
I went through busing.
stuff like that. Right? And but they know we're consumers, and they play on that coonism part of us, just consuming instead of producing and supplying.
Yeah.
And I have to bring it back to People's Academy, of course, and the elected officials. Look in every other community. They're strongly pushing a $1 billion industry in the building trade, but in Boston and Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, etc., they're not doing it.
Well, it shouldn't even be a
People
problem,
need
T. Michael.
jobs,
When you
good
have
paying jobs.
when you have the state that says they have billions of dollars that they don't know what to do with, the city of Boston has, I think, $5 million that they don't know what to do with. Right? This is excess money. Right? This is money from the coronavirus,
Yeah, the
COVID relief. This is unexpected money on top of the Boston has not been hurting for quite some time. You know, because of property, the buildings being here, so the tax base here. There is money here. There's no excuse other than not wanting to, not a willingness to do it. That's what it comes down to. You're wasting money on things that you don't even need to, because see what you're talking about, what you're doing, T. Michael, is empowering people to not be so dependent on the system. And it's like anything else with the consumer. You need a consumer. Politicians need a consumer. They need people who they think need them. So
I was going to.
It's sad that we have to, like you would say, keep beating a dead horse or a broken record. But I'm not going to stop.
no,
And
should you?
It's sad, but I have to get off the line because
Okay.
I'm driving now.
All right. Yeah.
We need to talk. There's some good stuff.
All right.
But I can't talk about it.
All right. I'll give you a call after the broadcast.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
T. Michael.
Bye.
Pass it off. Yes, some
Go on.
comments.
Just as some comments, I want to people
Sure,
who are actually
sure.
tuned in. I want to acknowledge. So, Maureen Terrain says, "Everyone who says Lord, Lord." In other words, there's a scripture that says everyone who says Lord, Lord, that's not their Lord. Referring to Trump. Eric Kennedy says, "Cultural Christians are non-religious persons who adhere to Christian values and appreciate Christian culture. This kind of identification may be due to various factors such as family background, personal experiences."
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, he's educating us here. and the social and cultural environment in which they grew up.
Who come up with these names? I never heard of anything
But
like
see, what it is this guys from cultural should just be knocked down to cult
that. Yeah,
Christian.
yeah.
Also, mirroring E. Train says Trump has exposed who everyone is.
Yes, absolutely, no question.
Well, where I was going here when T. Michael was talking about it, it hit me was this issue around convenience versus rights. Let me just explain to you what I'm thinking about. We have a constitutional right to vote, so I can't attack that because it's guaranteed on the federal side under the Constitution. But I can't. The Constitution doesn't say that I should make it convenient.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if I want to actually attack the rights, I go around, go through the back door and attack the convenience. If I attack the convenience, then I'm actually I'm depriving you of the right. And that's how deep these people are thinking. That's where I'm going.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so what we have to do, and I agree with you that I'm laying the groundwork to support this motivation. This movement to make sure that people are getting to the poll. You know, and if it means that we have to sit there and wait with vans ready to drive them, we have to do something.
That's right.
Because they are going to continue to attack the convenience around voting. If I make it inconvenient, then you will not exercise your right, which is guaranteed in the Constitution. So it's about this convenience versus right.
Look, politics has become such a sport. It's a sport, right? Where they know the numbers, right? And they know how to run out the clock. So when Trump said he needs 17,870 votes, right? All he says is now, they know the next time, what we need to do is eliminate that many from the other side plus one. That's all we need to do. And how do we do that? We chip away at these small. So we can't really kind of attack Atlanta because that's a large population. But if we chip away at these other ones, that make just enough. So they're doing the math. They're doing the math.
But see, you know, and I'm going back to my days of my military training. When you're making an argument, or when you're making when you're attacking the system, you don't go after the entire government. You have battles. When you're attacking a war, you know, and it takes a series of winning the battles in order to win the war.
Exactly.
But what the battle does is that it gives you an opportunity to see how well your plan works, and what you have to move.
This was a dry run.
Yeah, you know what you have to move around, what you have to eliminate, what you have to add. So if I go to places like Randolph County, that's a smaller, area, I can annihilate that vote. So how then I do an assessment of what happened. Okay, what worked and what didn't work.
Right.
So when I go to Richmond County, now I know that this particular mechanism worked and that one didn't, so I'm not going to employ that.
Right.
So this is all about, getting yourself fine-tuned to take on the bigger monster, which is Atlanta.
Absolutely.
You see, so that's how you have to think about it. So this whole thing, well, it's a small count. No. A threat to voting anywhere is a threat. Violating voting anywhere is a threat to voting everywhere.
Right.
Period.
Right. I think to your point there, the Taliban, right? They didn't go into Kabul first. They took off these little small.
You never do.
And then they went in finally after they've taken out all these small ones. Then they attacked the capital, right?
Because what happens if you're attacking the big area, then you got more defense around it. So therefore, you have to figure out how what do I need to put in place to penetrate these
and
defenses.
to your point, and we're gonna play that audio again. The dry run, in my opinion, was when they took over the capital in Michigan.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And they said, "Wow, that was easy."
I mean, but if you look at it, I'm gonna go back to history. Russia is a good example. When they actually overthrew the Tsar, in 1917, that was a dry run to actually ultimately bringing in the Soviet Union. Years later. So you don't go. Coups d'etat usually don't happen the first time around. It usually happens 2 or 3 times because they have to tweak the plan, if you will.
Absolutely.
This is a part of tweaking the plan.
And they get people in there who will protect them when they get caught.
Amen.
So we're going to listen to this piece here at NPR at Maceo Snipes here because I think it's important for the Taliban, right? They didn't go into Kabul first. They took off these little small things.
You never do.
And then they went in.
Economy and everything else. Click the play button below to listen to a recent episode. Support for NPR come.
All right, well, Pastor, I was working on that. No, and 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685.
Time voting this November. Randolph County is set to decide tomorrow whether to close 7 of its 9 polling stations. Adding to the tension over this plan is a historic contest for governor in the state. Johnny Kaufman of member station WABE brings us the story.
Randolph County sits about 3 hours south of Atlanta. The area is known for its vast peanut and cotton fields, and a violent history of enslavement and voter suppression. Today, about 63% of the county's small population is black. The poverty rate is more than double the national average.
Thank you for showing your support.
About 75 people opposing the poll closures gathered last night at a restaurant to organize.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.
Bobby Fuse is an activist in the region. Fuse and civil rights groups argue closing the polling places would make voting especially difficult for African Americans and people with low incomes.
The people that we work against on a daily basis since emancipation no longer put up white-only signs and colored-only signs. They do other things.
One voter at the rally, Diane Jones, lives in Benevolence. It's a small community in northern Randolph County. If the polling place there closes, it would mean a 15-minute drive for people to vote on Election Day. Jones says the problem is some people in Benevolence can't afford a car.
No jobs. You can't just get something just like that. You got to have a job.
Randolph County's proposal to close polling places was quickly entangled in the politics of Georgia's race for governor, which is just a little more than 2 months away.
First thing, there's a black person running for governor.
Sandra Willis stuck around after the rally died down. She says Republicans are worried they can't beat strong candidates like Democrat Stacey Abrams.
Can't stop us all, but they're going to try to stop the ones that they can by closing the precincts.
Abrams would be the first black female governor in the country. She says Randolph County should not close the polling places. The Republican candidate in the governor's race is Secretary of State Brian Kemp. He's in charge of elections in Georgia.
Consolidation has become highly recommended by the Secretary of State.
That's election consultant Mike Malone at a recent meeting in Randolph County. Today, the county announced plans to end its contract with Malone. At the earlier meeting, though, Malone read from a slide that says Kemp endorsed his plan to close 7 polling places.
The trend in Georgia and other states is to reduce the polling places, to reduce election costs, which is natural.
The Secretary of State's office denies it had anything to do with Malone and the county's proposal, and Kemp says he staunchly opposes it. Malone did not respond to calls or text messages. The politics of the whole situation are murky at best. Randolph County is controlled by Democrats, and Republicans argue it's all a scheme to keep their voters from the polls. Tommy Coleman is the county's lawyer. He says the county is not trying to make voting more difficult.
You know, if I was going to suppress voters, I probably would not choose a county the size of Randolph to create this controversy about, because as a practical matter, it would have a marginal effect on the election, I suppose.
Coleman says closing some polls makes sense, but it needs more research. Civil rights groups are threatening lawsuits if the county approves the plan on Friday. For NPR News, I'm Johnny.
Oh, yeah. It's all about saving money. If you the other one, we'll go right.
It's Friday, which is when we hear from StoryCorps. And on this Martin Luther King Day weekend, the story of a man who inspired a teenage Dr. King. We should warn this story includes a description of racial violence. U.S. Army veteran Maceo Snipes was serving in World War II. In 1945, he returned home to Taylor County, Georgia, where he became the first African American to cast a vote in his county primary.
But the day after he voted, 4 men drove up on the family farm and they shot him. My grandmother went down and reported this lynching, but no one was ever arrested.
Raynita Snipes Johnson is Maceo Snipes' great niece. She only recently learned her uncle's story and shared it with her friend Gene Robinson.
Right after he was shot, there was a note on a church door, and it said, "The first in to vote won't vote again." And anyone who preaches about Maceo Snipes better dig a grave for themselves. So our family never discussed what happened to him.
Wow.
But after his killing, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a letter to the newspaper as it related to the killing of Maceo Snipes. When I found that letter, it really resonated because he expressed how he felt about the injustice to our black citizens not allowed to vote, and nothing's being done about it. You know, my uncle knew what he was doing when he walked into that election office, and he didn't let intimidation turn him from exercising his right.
He was a warrior and a true American because he took the weight and said, I'm going to do what everyone should do.
My uncle, a man I have never met, was a determined man. And when I look at his picture, I can see the sternness in him, but I can see the love that was in him. And through spirit, I feel him calling me to say, your vote matters.
All right, so there you are, two pieces, out of Georgia, where this is happening, not just in Georgia, but around the state, the Maceo Snipes. Let's honor these people, Dr. Bradley. I mean, he went and voted, and they came and shot him, said he'd be the last one. Don't let you be the last one to vote. I mean, you don't run the risk of getting shot. I love watching your expressions when you listen to these things, because you get it.
Well, I'm sorry, I get it. In a large part, I lived it. Georgia is my home state. That's not speaking too highly. It doesn't impact me or my family, but Georgia is where I was born. I was born in Augusta, and I have heard stories like this all throughout my family.
Yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah,
but Maceo.
This is that great America that they talk about.
Yeah, but his situation is very, very touching to me because, as a former military man myself, I understand the. While I have not served in the combat theater, I think it came very close to it. I have been in a situation where I have been on alert and ready to go to combat for this country. And I understand the peril that you're in. You cast yourself into in combat. To think about the fact that this guy went to World War II.
Yeah,
and he fought.
Yeah,
he had to dodge mines and mortars and bullets and tanks and all those things that are trying to take you out. And then he comes home to exercise his right to vote. And he then gets
But Dr. Bradley, you served as a law enforcement, a public safety. So it's the same. You're on the front line protecting people's rights, protecting people. So it's not. I mean, maybe if we didn't have to go afar, and I do it still currently. Your wife does it. So it's we're serving in a capacity here. Let's get to these calls. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Two callers. The first one is Rhodes Pierre.
Okay, Mr. Pierre. Good morning, sir.
Gentlemen. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes. Good morning, Rose. How you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. And I just wanted to kind of like just chime in on the quote that the segment was ended on, that they were reporting about the county and NPR, and the fact that the county attorney said, if I were going to suppress the vote, I'd pick a more significant county than this. That just shows you the fact that he's not representing the county. He's always like, this county, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
So it's just kind of like that's the attitude of your own representation as the county lawyer of like, this place doesn't matter.
Right.
That's what he was basically.
But also, you're right. He's very telling in his mindset that is something, because he wouldn't even say that if it wasn't a thought in his mind, in his head, that there are bigger fish he want to fry. But this is just, as Dr. Bradley alluded to, let's start with this one. Good.
No,
good catch.
And it's just crazy that that's their representation.
Yeah.
Like he would, if you were in charge of the county to make sure that things were fair, wouldn't you want to investigate that, make sure that it wasn't the case?
Right. And it's not about costs; it's about suppression.
Yes.
They waste a lot of money on things, and like you said, someone's right to vote should not be something where cost is even a factor.
Yeah. It's about fine-tuning your plan.
Exactly.
So I can take on the bigger fish.
There you go. Stand by for a second, Rhodes. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning. I'd like to first and foremost mention that I listened to your conversation with T. Michael this morning, and I want to make this perfectly clear. I want to send a message to Michelle Wu and the city councilors that Michelle Wu nor any of the city councilors at large have no more excuses to not give T. Michael the help and the resources he needs to bring the People's Academy in Boston, because remember, Michelle Wu and the city council, along with the state, wants a piece of that multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure bill that the president and Congress passed. Also, when it comes to voter suppression, this isn't nothing new. It's like the old saying goes, the names have changed, but the faces still remains the same. And as a person who's a politician, I'm not a politician, but I do both. I see how the Democrats and Republicans like to call it corny or call it classic, but I'm old-fashioned. It's like the good old-fashioned good versus evil. The Democrats, they play the good guys, so they want the people to be on their side to say, well, this is what we do for the people, and we have to bring the the Republicans are saying, well, they did this, they didn't do this, they didn't help us, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to the Republicans act like they're the bad guys, saying that, well, the Democrats are stalling or they not want to work with us. The same old, though.
So, Dick, the challenge to you and all our callers, including ourselves, is what are you going to do to help folks down in Georgia and other places where they're really trying to suppress the vote, where all these laws that they change, they pass, are not going to do anything? Are you going to be part of the solution, and helping us to galvanize, to get folks down into these places, to help these folks if they need a ride to the polls? We put our money where our mouth is, because these are very poor states. Like the lady said, they can't afford a card, and I'm sure there's no public transportation running through there because she said people don't get to work. So what are we going to do? And I'm not putting it just on you. What are we going to do to help these folks?
Well, first and foremost, no more excuses. Second, work with the people you elected into office.
That's not working.
That voting suppression can never happen again.
Well, we can't depend on them. We've seen with Joe Manchin and Sinema, they're not even going to move on a bill where now, if they don't get it done now, and if the Senate changes in this year, that's not going to happen. All Mitch McConnell is going to do is just slow walk everything until hopefully he can get a Republican back in there to sign a bill that he wants. So that's not going to happen. We have to think about now and not about politicians, because see, if we can mobilize and get folks to the polls, we don't have to depend on they work for us. There's 50 there's 100 senators. They work for us. The Congress is more like 400 and something. So they work for us. There are over 300 million people in this country, and you think about it, over 85 million people voted for. This is not about Democrat or Republican, but over 85 million people voted for Joe Biden. But a lot of us voted because we didn't want to continue down this road. So the question is, again, what are we going to do? Not those politicians, because they've already showed us they can't even get the bill passed. So what are we going to do? Because see, if we can mobilize and get people to vote, we can get a lot of these folks out of office. Because in my opinion, Joe Manchin and Sinema should be voted out because they're not protecting our rights.
I think one of the things that I would do is
again, they're from other states.
Well, actually, I'm going to go. But Rose, I'm going to go there because there's nothing preventing you from supporting their rivals.
That's right.
Or their individuals who are running for their seat in their state.
That's right.
Because I think Sinema should not be in her position.
Right.
I don't think Manchin should be as a Democrat. I call them dinos.
Right.
You know what I mean? Democrats and them
exactly.
only.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So one of the things that I would do is that I would seek out someone in Arizona, in the state of Arizona, that's running for Sinema's seat, that I agree with that individual's ideology, and I support that person financially.
Even if they're not, we should find someone.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is what I'm saying, there's a financial support for that as well, right? So we ask people to go and give of themselves, and then when they need support, people send them. That's why I said, what are we going to do? And then I'm telling you, you don't have to have $1 million or, even, like I said, $5. If everybody gives them $5, that adds up.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So again, gentlemen, Rose, I'm going to go to you first before we let you go. What are you going to do to help?
Again, post as much as I can about the people that are running. Again, they say think globally but act locally. So we got to get the local people to act. Like you said, you got to get the people to the votes, and it's like all the local votes matter.
Yeah. All right, thank you, sir. And please continue to listen and continue to share this information with your friends and family, because this is important. This is not, like I said, it's not like Vegas, as they say. What happens in Georgia doesn't stay in Georgia. It affects us here.
No.
Thank you, sir. And we're going to have you on soon. We're talking about the financial aspects of things.
In fact, I gave Keith his contact
so we'll
information.
coordinate that within the next couple of weeks. Thank you, sir. So, Dicko, again, the question to you as well, sir. What are you going to do? What are you doing here? We're empowering folks this morning. It's Martin Luther King weekend, but to me, celebrating our history, our culture, who we are as a people every single day. Unapologetic. That is not a threat, an attack on anyone else. It is just I am proud of who I am, because every day I'm reminded of that, Dr. Bradley, of who we are. And we also, we want to act like fit in. You're never going to fit in where you're not wanted. So the signs may not be there that says this race only or whatever, but all the signs of not wanting you are there.
You can remove the signs, but you can't eradicate the behavior.
There you go.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you can't legislate it either.
You can't. You cannot do that. But I think that people have to understand that just because Sinema and Manchin doesn't represent Massachusetts, it doesn't mean that their decision doesn't impact you.
That's right.
And so people got to understand that. These individuals serve on committees. These individuals are pushing laws or supporting laws or not. So what they're providing us is a good example of how other senators can impact your quality of life.
But not only that, Dr. Bradley, Donald Trump is eliminating anyone who is not doing his bidding, who is not working on his behalf, right? He is challenging them, right? They're going to have, he's primarying all of them. We should be doing the same for people who don't serve our interest, whether they're in this state or not. It's primarying them.
Primarying them, absolutely. I agree with
you. Any final words from you, sir?
For him, it should work for us.
To answer your question, first and foremost, we as black people got to start compromising. That's number one. Number two, we got to keep going back to the basis of educating ourselves to making sure that when we do the right thing, that we won't have any regrets, and that we have to make sure that we as a people who've been here for over 4 centuries now have got to realize that there were people that died before us, and we want to make sure that future generations can have a real future for the future generations.
Did you listen to that NPR piece we played with Maceo Snipes?
I did.
And he died just because he voted. If that doesn't impact you, and they said he will be the last he was the first in person to vote and the last one to vote. So maybe you won't be shocked, but it's pretty much the same as far as if you taking away your right to vote, the basic right to vote. They don't have to shoot you, but you'll be isolated and pretty much removed from society, because we won't have a voice. We have very little voice now, and that will be minimal. Like I said, you can have all the people in Massachusetts advocating for what you want. If the Senate is controlled by people who think like Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy, it doesn't matter what the folks in Massachusetts are doing. Nothing will move on your behalf. And that's the fact. I just think folks aren't understanding with the sense of urgency. Dicko, final words from you, sir?
We can't give up, because if we give up, then all what we did was be for nothing, no?
Yeah, but it's not about giving up. It's about doing something. See, I get it, and I think that's what, you saw that sentiment of folks in Georgia that didn't show up for Biden. They don't want to hear words. They want to see action. And we can't. We've got to do more than just talk about the problem.
But in all fairness to that, I agree with him. I want to see action, but I got to put the groundwork in place for him to actually operate on. Because right now, a 50-50 Senate is just not doing it. I can't ask for the impossible. If he got 50-50 Senate and the tie is broken by the president, by the vice president, if I lose one senator, I have lost my fight. So in actuality, it's not much, based on our government structure. There's not very much that Trump,
but this
Biden
is what
can do.
Well, he should be taking a page in some ways out of Trump's book, saying, "Okay, fine, we'll find some senators in your state."
I agree with you. We're primary,
right? Exactly.
You know what I mean? I would go to Arizona and let people know that this is what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not necessarily West Virginia, because Trump won West Virginia. But I will actually find when there is a Democrat stepping up in West Virginia to run against you, I will give him my full
unadulterated, unadulterated support.
Right.
Because it's important that we understand that, you know what, if you're going to get something done, because if we had, a more majority in the Senate, then this would be a no-brainer.
Right. You wouldn't need to be this so close. It just shows you how divided this country is, literally right down the middle. But also, you're right. I mean, the trip the other day to Georgia would have been better served in West Virginia or Arizona.
Well, it would have been. You know what I mean? But one would hope that the cinemas and the mansions will understand that we're coming after you if you don't support this.
Right.
The Republicans do it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If you don't support, nominating and approving Amy Colby Barrett, we're going to primary you in the conversation.
Right. That's why a lot of them that were decent people are not running or resigning because they know they're going to be challenged for doing the right thing.
So this idea, this notion that I'm going to stand up and I want to keep this thing right and filibuster has this role. The filibuster was never intended as a veto mechanism for the Senate. It wasn't intended for that.
They just use it to basically to the debt ceiling. So
they have used it on numerous occasions, Larry.
Right.
And the Republicans do it all the time, and not one of them step forward to say, well, you know what? If we actually suspend this to bring in, Garland as a president, as a Supreme Court justice, then it's going to create a problem when the Democrats are in control.
Right.
They don't do that. They were like, well, we'll just suspend it.
How's that worked out? Mitch McConnell had no problem using it.
Exactly.
Dicko, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Be well.
So where is this coming from? It's coming from the fact. It's coming from power.
Right.
Trump runs again. We now support him. The entire open election process supports him. We have all the power. We're running the government.
Right.
I can't wait until midterm because history says that this is how these Republicans are thinking. You can have this committee, this January 6th committee. Bipartisan. It's not bipartisan. It's a partisan committee because it's actually bipartisan because you have two Republicans on it. But my point is that it's not endorsed by the Republican Party
because they don't want to endorse the truth.
Because they don't want to endorse the truth.
Right.
They don't want you to know. Why should we not know as a people who attacked our government and who organized it, who orchestrated it? These people knew where they were going. They had been there before. And so this whole idea, this whole notion that we're not going to support it.
Right.
In my mind, what you're doing is telling the people we don't care about you.
And particularly to your point, Dr. Bradley, is by people who took an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution against domestic and foreign enemies, right?
That you see, the thing is, think about this.
Isn't this their Constitution that they're always waving in people's face?
But that part of the oath, domestic and foreign, was put in place as a result of the Confederacy, the Confederate Army, the General Lees and those guys who relinquished their commission to fight against this country. So after they defeated the Confederate, they added that piece, domestic,
and
foreign enemies.
Right.
And so
because they come from within as well.
Exactly. So you're implementing an insurrection on our nation. What is more enemy than that?
Well, wasn't that what the Civil War was pretty much?
There you go.
Right?
That's my point.
As I've said numerous times, this is a modern day Civil War.
That's my point. And it all stems from this one issue. This is the issue it's stemming from, and people can't lose sight of this. We're having a shift in the demographics of America. America is becoming much more browner, much more blacker, and redder than it had ever been before. So you have this mortality rate of white folks going up and the birth rate going down represents lack of representation in society. And so now you have a situation where the table is flipped. The majority is people of color and the minority are people that are not. And there lies the fear. That is the motivation. That's why you have evangelical Christians saying, I don't care about Christian. I'm a cultural Christian. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I'm worried.
Stop there. No cultural. Just stop at cult.
I'm worried about my rights. I'm worried about, that my supremacy, that I can walk into an institution, that the government institution is not redlining my community, that the government institution is not violating, making sure that my kids are getting a quality education, that the government institution not providing for me because I'm white, and so this is written for me. And, you know, another way that you see this manifest itself, and I'm losing my country. You know, I got to get my country back. I got to make America great again. This is all about mortality and birth rates, brother.
Right.
It's just that simple.
Right.
I mean, and I hear you, but again, I have to also raise people who are black folks who identify as Christians, right? Because you're talking about white folks who are saying they want to lose their power, but there's also black evangelicals who are Christians who are saying that we're losing, you know, because society's out of control and we have all these liberties and we're so liberal that we've got to go back to conservative values. We've got to, and that whole mindset under the guise of being confused, because I believe that some folks are really very well intended in that they're saying that the fact that our society's out of control, and you know, and I'm just going to go here, right? So, you know, some of the what do you call it, the wedge issues, right? Same-sex marriage, right? And we know as Christians how we feel about that, but we'll say, oh, you know, society and all these liberties and all these things that we're doing, we've got to go back to conservative values, and under the guise of conservative values, they're saying that this is Constitution and this is why we need to do it. So, and it's confused with the vote suppression, and they don't see it as such. They're saying, let's go back to these conservative values.
But it was the same conservative values that ostracized and alienated and disenfranchised me because of what I look like.
But there's
those values.
But there's black folks who will say, oh, I've not experienced that. The only my challenges have been with my own people, have been with black people, hasn't been with white folks. And so there's a mindset of folks who,
until you get arrested.
But that's been the beginning of the
until
time.
you get into the criminal justice system.
Beginning of the time.
Correct.
You know, until you get into the other name for slave, until you get into education, and until you're redlined, until you're doing all those institutional things that keep you suppressed, undervalued, and disenfranchised.
But gentlemen,
regardless of
if you go back in history,
what your education
if you go back in history, remember you had the house of Negroes and the field ones, right? So the ones in the house thought they weren't being treated bad. They thought it was vacation, right? Because they weren't being whipped as much, right? And then those out, and so that's what I'm saying. This goes back to the beginning of the time where our folks are divided. I get that. That's healthy. I don't have a problem with people having a difference of opinion. But when you deny the truth, so here's a statement from one of, I think it's good. It's Laura Ann McLean Britt on the Facebook. She says, "This is so serious, and black people must wake up." That statement is so true. If it wasn't important, meaning our vote, they wouldn't be trying to suppress it. We did what we were supposed. If we did what we did what we were supposed to do for the last presidential election, and they don't want that to ever happen again. But the devil is a liar. We need to do what we're supposed to do. Stand up for our rights. This is a spiritual matter too, and we must pray for the leadership and the democracy of this country. I mean, she is so true, and that's a very profound statement there. You know, thank you, Laura Ann McLean Britt. I mean, this is so true. But there aren't a lot of people that think like that, Dr. Brother. I mean, you go into church, like I said, the church used to be the institution that we went to for guidance and support, and not just, you know, for spiritual guidance, but also, let's be real, for political guidance, right? Because politicians, what do they flock during election? They head to the churches, right? Because they're looking for votes, right? And then after that, you don't see them anymore. That's why a lot of people have been disenfranchised with the churches as well, because, as you said, in some instances, they become a cult. Like you're talking about the Christian. I mean, how can you be a Christian and support someone like Donald based on his immoral?
Brother, let me read this to you, because I'm over 60. My eyes are not going.
We got for time, Pastor. Let me show you.
4 minutes.
Okay.
I'm gonna read this to you, and you're gonna be familiar with this. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government is instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive in these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
Okay.
So I say that to say, as a black man, that piece is very profound to me, because you have destroyed that end. That end was never realized for me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That end, you have never accomplished that for me.
Right.
You have never provided that for me.
Right.
So if we as a people can petition the world court that, hey, listen, America has defaulted on its debt, because this particular Declaration of Independence says that whenever a form of government has actually been destructive to these ends, I have a right to abolish it.
Right, and to that point, Dr. Bradley, those folks who attacked the Capitol on January 6th were in the mindset that they needed to abolish the government because it wasn't working for them.
Amen.
And we're not talking about abolishing the government. What we're saying is that the basic minimum right to vote.
But what I'm saying is that because over the history you have never achieved this, you're lucky that I'm not asking to do this.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
I'm just asking for fair treatment.
Right. We're marching in protest of saying all we want to be is treated equally.
Amen.
Period.
Amen.
Full stop.
Amen.
But somehow, no, you're less than. Like you said in that statement, all men are created equal. I think even that is said, right? Because men wrote it, right? It didn't, so you can interpret, well, did they just mean men? Did it just mean all white men? Because there's no one that looks like us that was part of the signing or authoring of this document.
But see, what I'm saying here is that those individuals in January the 6th,
hold that thought. We got to listen at the round table, man, Bill. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Living what you spitting. If your money's so long, while your dog's in prison.